Hey everybody, what's up? It's James, also known as the Skate Punk Lefty, here with a new video. Trying to make it to 100 videos. Wish me luck. So today, one segment that was on my mind that I always wanted to go over was this debate between Don Lemon and Vivek Ramaswamy. If you don't know, Don Lemon is the former host of CNN. I think he was an anchor, and he was a liberal slash neoliberal who had good takes on some issues and bad takes on others. But I feel like all around he had a positive effect on American politics because he was not promoting hatred, but at best he promoted ignorance about things like capitalism and the power of companies over people and what have you. CNN was always like that intermediate liberal shit. But anyway, but Vivek Ramaswamy is a hack dipshit who spent his entire life conning and getting things handed to him. That's basically his resume. And motherfucking, I watched the Republican debate where it was like 6 to 8 of these assholes got up there, and not one person had a good solution to any problem. Where everything went back to immigration, where everything went back to bootstraps, where somehow we're selling people working class populism and talking about the American dream being lost. But the answer is like keeping, like, knowing that it's only two genders. Tim Scott bitch ass said crack down on unions, and I know that Vivek got called out a lot for being like really young. So I was gonna go over this Sam Cedar Majority Report covering of this, and I wanted to talk about it over that. But what we got here is, it seems to me, and I looked at the channel, is one of the ones that get it. You know what I'm saying? We got us a good boy, one of the good blacks, that understands how things really work around here. So I decided to go over his coverage. I've seen this debate before, and Vivek on his own was like very dishonest about his framing of history and laws that were passed. I don't want to ruin it if you've never seen it, but just know a lot of dishonesty, a lot of not even half true, just straight up lying in this interview. And I just want to see what this how I love black conservatives. They are some of the most wonderful people on the planet. So I just want to see what this wonderful person has to say about this debate.
And tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. So we are happy to have you on. I'm going to talk to you more than just about
commentary video over a commentary video. How funny is that?
Fox News. But good morning to you. Thank
you
for joining us.
Glad to be here.
What do you make of this decision to settle this case?
I mean, it strikes me as a cost of doing business. If you're going to be a news network, I think it's happened to CNN. I think it's happened to a lot of news networks.
That has not happened to CNN.
That has not happened to CNN. This
never been sued for defamation. Never been actually settled.
No, that didn't happen to CNN. You're already being fucking dishonest. It's not the cost of doing business. Fox News, OAN, and One American. No, that's One American News. And what was that other one? I forgot the other one. It was three. It was Fox News, you got OAN, and it was this other one that was like very fascist and very far right too. And they because it's like it happened like this. So basically Fox News literally knew that Trump lost the election, so they cut their mics and everything, and they immediately stopped allowing people to promote. They didn't immediately stop because they couldn't keep control over all their employees. So you had people like what's that one bastard? He used to do Fox Business. I forgot the name of him. Tucker Carlson would implicitly suggest it, and then he came over to documentary defending the January 6th motherfuckers. This guy looks like Ali Alexander now that I think about it. Funnily enough, I hope this isn't him, because the stuff that's done happen to him, it'd be kind of better for him to disappear off the internet. But what I'm going to say is that Fox News had a bunch of hosts and people, and I forgot that son of a bitch's name. He got fired, like, from Fox Business, and, many other people who kept saying that the election was stolen. I think Jeannie Pirro implicitly said it, and a lot of other people that kept letting Trump on. Trump came on, he was saying it. The My Pillow guy was saying it. They kept going into Fox News, and these other networks kept saying like, "Oh, Dominion this, Smartmatic that." And eventually, they sued him for defamation because these are hollow ass cases that and they even did it in Michigan. Like Rudy Giuliani took his dumb ass to Lansing to waste the court on, the people that work at the court time, the judges, and prosecutors and what have you, and all the other people that worked there. Sorry for those people. I don't think it was prosecuted because it wasn't necessarily a criminal case. But what I'm saying is he wasted a lot of people's time, a lot of hardworking people's time filing paperwork for bullshit. To sell a lie to Trump's fan base, to the majority of Republicans in this country, or the fascists that stand right by them. But anyway, and Fox, this shit kept caught up to them, and they got sued. Fox News even got sued because Fox News was able to hold it off for a long time. And people might argue, ironically enough, Tucker Carlson got fired about this time too, for other reasons I've heard also. But a lot of stuff on because this is so fucking ridiculous. Like see, because like I said, conservatives lie about a lot of shit. Like so eventually Fox News got sued. They fired Tucker Carlson, and then this interview, I'm sure, happened after the fact about the things that happened to Fox News. They're being asked about that, and like Fox News, as far as I've seen it from Tucker Carlson, the dudes from Fox Business and what have you, there's been credible evidence that Fox News promoted this empty fucking lie that the election was stolen, which is a whole nother video among itself. But let's continue.
It's definitely large, and Fox appears to have the largest viewership and the market capitalization. So I'm not familiar with the details of this case. I'm actually more interested in issues relating to this country.
Why not? Why did you speak on it? Maybe this is that thing Republicans should start doing more often. Shut the fuck up. Y'all constantly speak on things that y'all don't understand and that y'all don't know the context of. And I ain't even let my man speak yet. I just noticed that. And then when people call you out for it, like, no, like Fox was promoting lies about the election, but now, oh well, no, never mind then.
In disputes with media companies, but I will say that it strikes me that from
you're not familiar, honest, you're not familiar with the case. You're not familiar with the lies about the 2020 election, about the election being stolen, that Dominion was somehow, fixing the votes. I mean, that's why they $787.5 million. You're not familiar with that, and you're running for president.
The details of a private dispute between a commercial dispute and the details of what the dollar figures are. That's not where I spend. That's really not where I spend my time. But what I will say is, look, there's defamation cases.
All right, Don, you can do all this reading stuff as much as you want to, but I'm interested in lying about shit.
People settle businesses. Settle business disputes. Fox settled this one. It's actually
it wasn't a business dispute. They got sued for lying. They got sued for lying.
Be familiar with it. I disagree with that because as you just admitted, you said Fox is the largest viewership, one of the largest viewerships among television networks, and especially cable networks. Considering the eyes, the American people who are tuning in to Fox News to get their information and to get it accurately, I'm surprised that you would say that you're not concerned about this, and this is not something that is hugely pressing for the American people.
Here's the way I look at it.
Freedom of the press is the First Amendment in the Constitution.
Oh, exactly. You nailed it. The freedom of the press. So we have CNN, we have Fox. I'm here with you guys. I go on Fox News. I think that's great that we have a marketplace of ideas in this country. What I worry more about, Don, is the trend that we see in this country to controlling what different parties are actually able to say.
No, Vivek, you can't just lie about shit. No. It's not about controlling the things that you say. It's like if you're lying about something and people tell you that, like, hey, Vivek, stop the fuck up, that's a lie. You're just lying. And there's no credibility behind the things that you're saying. That's your problem.
American way to bad speech is more speech. And so I think we need to actually embrace that culture.
This is ridiculous. I mean, I guess it depends on what speech are we talking about. I'm not saying that I'm anti-free speech, like somebody should go to jail for being a Nazi. Hold up a second. Here I come. Here I come. And we back.
And a more diverse marketplace of ideas. That's something we haven't done well enough in this country.
With all honesty, you're not answering the question. You're giving us platitudes about...
I'm actually unsure what your question is, Don.
You're not answering the question. You're virtue signaling about free speech, which Republicans ironically will take away. Because when people want to express themselves for being black or being queer or being an outspoken or strong woman, you people want to suppress that speech. But speech defending the ideals of white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, and neoliberal economic policies, y'all defend. You ever notice when a Republican is defending something, they defending free speech or defending something someone says, is never anything positive. You are never defending people saying, oh, people should just, be themselves. You're never defending people saying Black Lives Matter or any, or like, people should be able to be queer without persecution. Y'all are always defending, people that are promoting straight up lies, from climate change denial to Holocaust denial.
John, do you want somebody to bash Fox News on CNN?
No, I'm not
If that
asking
does
you
you
to
a favor,
bash
then I'd be
Fox.
happy
I'm
to do
not
that.
asking you to bash
Actually, I
Fox News.
wouldn't.
I'm asking you to
Yeah.
be honest
Yeah.
about what happened on Fox News, about the lies that were told.
Can't do that.
And
Comes
them
with
having
the
to
territory
admit
of being a
their lies
Republican.
and paying the largest defamation settlement to a media company in history, and you are a frequent guest on that network. Are you concerned about the credibility? Are you going to continue to go on that network even with those credibility?
I have far more concerns with the credibility of what we will call the mainstream media than I do with the credibility of Fox News. But
Fox is a mainstream media.
At the end of the day, what I say is, look, neither you nor I know the details because they settled it before it went to trial. I think the obsession over
Because
this is
they
a
knew they were fucked. That's why they settled it before it went to trial.
Listen,
I saw
What does the level want to hear particularly? I don't understand the question as much too.
we get into that.
There's real issues.
What do you mean by, like, you don't understand the question? He asked him to be honest about how he feels about Fox News getting sued, and then he went on about a bunch of platitudes about free speech and what have you.
Talk
It's
about
not
the
an
country.
obsession.
Why are we talking about Fox News and the settlement?
This is a very big and important story. And I'm not going to. We have much more that we want to talk.
I think we should.
About, but we will get there when we're ready to get there. We have you on to talk about these issues. This is a very important issue, and it should not be downplayed. This has to do with
Lying.
democracy.
People telling
And Americans learning
lies
the
that
truth
threaten
about what
democracy.
happened.
These lies threaten democracy. Millions of people across the country still believe that the election was stolen. They're willing to pick up weapons and go harm people. People stormed the fucking Capitol. So there has to be something done about this speech. And like, if it was a speech saying like, I like flowers or some shit like that, that wouldn't be a problem. But if somebody is saying that an election, a democratic election that affects the lives of millions of people was stolen, there needs to be dealt with in a different way.
In the 2020 election.
You want to know?
You don't think
I
that's
hear this.
important?
I hear a lot
I mean,
about
comparing it to CNN is not. This apples and oranges. It's not the same thing.
Well, it's different networks. Yes, apples aren't the same as oranges. You get one view through CNN, you get a different view through Fox News. I think that's good in our marketplace of ideas is that we have media that offers diverse perspectives. And you want to talk about threats to our democracy? One of the threats, and that phrase is an interesting one, threats to our democracy. I think one of the biggest ones is the chilling effect on speech in our country more broadly. Where if somebody
nobody is threatening anybody's speech. I don't understand where you're getting this from. I expected this guy to commentate more, and I was thinking about exiting the video since I know the title of this CNN interview, but fuck it, I'm gonna stay here.
Something that a broad segment of the population or certain people in the government disagree with. There's an increasing trend in our country to silence that. And the answer to bad speech and alleged misinformation is not less speech. It is more speech in the marketplace of ideas. That's actually what a free press really means.
All right, we're going to move on, but
Let's move on. Because like, he's basically saying that we should have free speech, but there should be no consequences to bad speech. Consequences to the things that you're saying is not carteling free speech. You're not getting in trouble for what you said. You're getting in trouble because the things that you said are lies. So you gain legal liability for those lies. Like, if you're saying something about somebody, like you say like let's say you go up into a club, right, and you say this person is musty, and then they sue you for it, but then it's found that they took like 2 showers and put on a new outfit and sprayed on deodorant before they walked into the club, and now you got to pay that person $787 million. That's how it works, dude. Don't lie about shit. And it's like, I try not to get into the election fraud bullshit in this video, but Republicans need to know, and the white supremacist country need to know, America is not owed to you. America does not owe you anything. And a lot of these people go around saying leftist, liberal, or black people, or as they like to call us, blacks, think that we're owed something, but because your little special little fucking boy lost because nobody likes him. This is a hard reality. There may be more money in being a Republican and promoting lies, white supremacy, and defending Trump, but that doesn't mean the majority of the country, especially among younger voters of many different demographics, do not like him. And that includes a lot of older white people talking about taking away people's Social Security and shit. Fuck off.
good. but it's not about what's actually happening. It's not relevant to what's happening. I think the answer to what happened at Fox News is to tell the truth. Media companies are tasked with telling the truth. That did not happen in the situation, and that's why we're asking these questions. But let's move on.
Let's talk more about a diverse exchange of ideas. That's what I'm in for. Thank you.
Glad you're here this morning. Your campaign slogan is a new American dream, and I was reading through your platform
Like I said, expected this guy to say more.
night. I wonder what you would do specifically to actually bring us together, not just Republicans and Democrats. What does unity look like to you, Vivek, for rich and poor, for rural and urban, for Republicans and Democrats?
That is the right question to be asking. And I think the main divide in this country, and I say this to conservative audiences equally, is not between Republicans and Democrats. It is between those of us who are pro-American, embracing the ideals that set this country into motion, and I think an increasing strain in this country that is anti-American, that wishes to...
No. This is like very fascist rhetoric talking about the people who want to... And it's like, ironically enough, this same rhetoric was used back in the 1960s against civil rights protesters, and even before that against, like, you know, union organizers, against people who want to, like, liberate the slaves and all this other shit. People who want to change America and make it better are not enemies of the American ideal. If anything, they're reinforcing it. If our country was literally written with a pen strokes saying that all men are created equal, but we are racked with racism, economic inequality, sexism, homophobia, and lack of equal opportunity among the population, that means we have more work to do. We're supposed to be building towards the ideal of making America a truly equal place to live, not ignoring all the problems in the country.
Apologize for a nation founded on those ideals, but that's not a 50-50 split. I think most people are in the pro-American camp,
and it's pro-America to want America to be better. It's anti-American to believe in shit like trickle-down economics. It's anti-American to believe in shit like bootstraps politics. It's anti-American to not want to address the needs and concerns of all the citizens that live there. It's anti-American to take your ass on CNN and promote a fascist narrative about people who want to improve the country, be it people that work in government or civil rights advocates, that they're anti-American. It's anti-American that your dumbass got on here and said that, considering the fact that we spent a good 5 to 6 years fighting against people that held those ideals back in the 40s.
I think one of the ways
and that you dare bring this shit into American mainstream politics. Not saying this is the first time, because we haven't had a lot of American white supremacists and fascists throughout American political history. But this is especially bad when somebody wants to say, you want blacks to get into college? That's anti-American. That's literally what's being said. You want women to have the same opportunities as men? That's anti-American. You want people to make more money for their labor? That's anti-American. You want to see more labor unions? That's anti-American. Like, this shit, it applies to every civil rights struggle, every socioeconomic issue that people want to alleviate and make better. You got motherfuckers going around saying shit like this. Be ashamed of yourself.
They would say we get to national unity. Some people think is by showing up in the middle and compromising. I respect that view, but I reject it.
You reject compromise?
Yeah, talk about who's anti-democratic now.
I reject compromising on our principles. I think the right way to get to national unity, and I mean this, to unite this country, is by embracing actually the radicalism of the American ideals themselves.
That doesn't mean anything.
Celebrate our diversity and differences. I'm glad we have 3 different shades of melanin on this set right now.
Oh boy, I love it when Republicans do this shit, when they try to virtue signal. Look, I'm not racist. Look, I'm talking to a black guy. I'm not racist at all. Like, come on, dude.
That's fine, but what I say is, so what? That diversity is meaningless unless there's something greater that binds us together, that unites us across that diversity. And I'm running for president to revive those ideals that bind us together across our diversity.
No, I don't. I reject this framing too. When Republicans say that they want to bind people together around an ideal, they mean white supremacist Americana. They do not mean through the ideals of the American dream or the things that the founding fathers wrote, about back in the day. Because Thomas Paine is one of the... Yeah, shut the fuck up. Thomas Paine is one of the founding fathers too. And he was considered in his time to be very progressive.
few issues, one of them being China. Before I get to China, I just want to better understand something you said this week speaking before the audience at the NRA. Here's what you said, referring to back to 1865. Here it was.
I want you to raise your hand if you know when the first anti-gun laws were passed in this country. Raise your hand if you do. 1865. You want to know when it...
This is a dishonest framing of history. This is why I want to cover this video. And I guess I can just... do I even need to like let it keep going and stuff like that? Because he's trying to argue that the American right wing and mostly white supremacist movement wants black people to be armed, when gun legislation was literally passed to keep the arms out of black people. Out of black people's hands. Jesus, James. But keep the guns out of black people's hands because they feared uprisings and they feared black people defending themselves from Klansmen and what have you. And don't tell me no shit about, oh, they were Democrats. You know that, right? I know. And do you know about the Southern Strategy? I didn't think so.
It happened. We fought a civil war in this country to give black Americans the equal protection under the law that we failed to secure them in 1776.
You think any of the people that join the NRA give a fuck about the things that black people want and need? Most people that join the NRA, if not deeply far-right Republican, are just fascists and neo-Nazis at this point who don't want the government. And it's like, let me tell you something. When these people talk about small government, they don't mean like being against police brutality, being against selective service. They don't mean like being against the government intervening and stopping strikes like the way Biden did or some shit like that. They mean they don't want the government preventing them from discriminating against or treating people any way that they want to.
But then you want to know what happened? Southern states passed anti-gun laws that stopped black people from owning guns. The Democrats...
So did California under Ronald Reagan. I wonder why that is.
You
see what I mean about the dishonest fucking hackery, like the reframing of history? Like he's literally doing it right now, like the like the Candace Owens shit. I was gonna say Thomas Sowell, but he's at least smart enough, I think, for the most part, to not do this. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like it's like Republicans love doing this, and Republican black people jerk off to this sentiment that somehow down the line the Southern Strategy and the drug war and all the shit Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and even Bush and especially Ronald Reagan did just didn't happen. All the socioeconomic failures that Republicans created, the problems they created for people like Carter and Clinton and Obama and Biden just didn't happen. Sure. And it's like I cannot deeply explain enough. Like that would take an entire video about the way that they used the Southern Strategy to take, not even just the Southern Strategy, their economic policy was designed to keep working people down, and that includes you, working class white man, but it affected black people worse and they knew it. So they went through a lot of the plans anyway, whether it's voter redistricting, property tax funding schools, making college pay to win, divestment in things like public transit and public infrastructure, divestment in social services like welfare, social security, and SNAP. Republicans want to take this shit from white workers, and they know it hurts black workers worse, so they do it anyway. And all this bullshit about just work harder, bro, doesn't work, and they know that it doesn't, but they sell it to people anyway because people want to just believe that maybe it's their problem that they can't make it. Now here's a video about Elon Musk talking about a car that he didn't have no hand in making.
Put them back in chains.
Then, as in now, that's quite an accusation about the
fuck are you smiling for?
Democratic Party. Who and what were you referring?
Like no commentary from this guy. I'm gonna keep him on here anyway because I just like, because it's like, dude, like that little, like I guess I can talk about that. Like, what are you chuckling for? And you see, this is why I do not like black Republicans, because when somebody is a white supremacist, right, or they have white supremacist ideals in their mind, even if they're just a moderate Republican, they may have some white supremacist ideal. Not saying these two groups of people are the same. You have these good boys who get they jackasses on camera to reinforce these bad ideals. This dishonest, hack-ass reframing of history, ignoring the past 60 and 70 years of politics. Or like I said, I'm gonna save what I want to say for later on, when they actually say it. But he's trying to choke a little long to like I said, a really dishonest reframing of history. You should be ashamed of your fucking self.
Too. I was referring to Joe Biden and his expression of wanting to put them back in chains, dating back to Lyndon Johnson. I think Lyndon Johnson's so-called Great Society was one of the
person that got the Civil Rights Act passed and tried to at least provide some socioeconomic reform to help working people, especially working people of color, was somehow trying to get people back in chains. Okay.
Greatest misnomers in American political history, where even back then in the 1960s, 70% plus of black kids were born into two-parent homes. Today, that number is less than 30% in the opposite direction.
And that's due to
the very policies that we implemented in this country in
which
the name
are
of helping black Americans
say them
have actually been disastrous
say them
for black
say
Americans
them
and all
say
Americans.
them
And
why won't you
that's
say
something
them
For some reason,
this dishonest, I get to what he gonna say in a second. This dishonest like reframing of history, dude, it's very easy to track the socioeconomic policies that were passed that keep black people in poverty or keep parents out of the home. How about the drug war in general, starting a war on drugs to have a way to fight against civil rights workers and protesters and interrupt their movements and stuff. The drug war was literally started to compensate for the freedoms that black people gained during the civil rights movement. How about the way that welfare is set up? We could talk about the way that welfare is set up, not the fact that welfare is a thing or that black people were on it. You should be able to be in a dual income household and qualify for welfare. How about, like I said earlier, making college pay to go? How about like pretty much all but nothing trying to outlaw unions and weaken unions in this country, which a lot of black people at the time relied on for working? How about encouraging, and I know this is a right wing thing, encouraging jobs to outsource and then blaming unions for the outsourcing. So like this, this honest framing of history that black people were just on welfare and didn't want to do anything with their lives, and that's why you should vote Republican, really gets under my skin.
People don't like to hear this, but there are statistics to show for it. Candice Owens says it all the time, but people still fry her for it, and people totally hate her for saying it. Vivek is saying it as a presidential candidate, but people will still like to hear it.
We need to wake up.
He's full of shit, and so are you, for the reasons that I previously stated. Like the drug war and all the policies passed along with it, like the mandatory minimum sentences, classifying marijuana as a drug, the fact that things like crack cocaine, which was done by predominantly poor people, especially poor black people, is still, I believe, on the books as more as a hot drug than regular pure cocaine by itself, even though that's technically supposed to be more expensive and more potent. I think they're both as dangerous to your brain and stuff as one another, but I can't even with this guy, bro. Like I said, this shit talking about some Candace Owens saying it. Like, I wouldn't, if I were you, dude, I wouldn't listen to nothing that Candace Owens said. If Candace Owens said the sky was blue, I'd Google it.
In 1865, you were talking about the black codes, right?
That's right.
Passed, enacted to make it a crime for a black person.
By right-wing Democrats at the time. And always remember this. Before 1968, approximately 1972, I want to say, the Democrats were right-wing and Republicans were left-wing. But I feel like the divide was more complicated than that. You should check out a Knowing Better video about this, where politicians in the South, regardless of party, campaign for, austerity, economic politics, and white supremacy. While people in the North were more likely to, campaign for economic equality and things like racial equality. But as time went forward, again, the Republicans started this Southern strategy, and they started to shift towards the right. And they start to have, economic austerity, promote neoliberalism, start dog whistling white supremacist ideals, saying that civil rights protesters were destroying Americans and shit. And not to say that liberals didn't help them along with some of the damage, but at the end of the day, this is like undeniably a Republican Party where they want to take away and deny people, ladders up, socioeconomically. I know I've been saying that a lot, but, socioeconomics is really important to this conversation, the socioeconomics of black people and other people of color. But, denying black people those ladders up, because, take giving people food stamps and shit like that. If somebody is working and going to college, You know how much, getting food stamps or, getting things like, welfare, people literally survive, because it's like somebody should be able to live in a house, right? Have their social security check and have a job. But we don't live in that society, even though things are getting more expensive. And this is mostly a Republican thing, where Republicans create policies in a biased way against poor people, and especially poor colored people, blacks and Latinos.
To carry a gun
Exactly.
in the South. But you're equating that to the current president? You're referring to economic chains? What are you saying?
Well, I was referring to Joe Biden's, I think, ill-chosen expression to say they're the party that wants to put you back into chains. What I'm actually saying is that if you look at the policies of
You
the modern
just said
Democratic
that
Party,
about Democrats.
Like what?
absolutely. So
How?
what I'm saying is that actually it's policies like that of Lyndon Johnson and Joe Biden that are actually holding black
Lyndon
Americans
Johnson,
back.
the one.
Like things like that's actually giving people like a socioeconomic footing, reinvigorating labor unions, providing things like child tax credits. So if you have children, you can lift your family out of poverty. Like that is somehow putting people in poverty. Passing the Civil Rights Act was bad for black people somehow. What is this dude even saying right now?
War on poverty?
Yes, and in particular his Great Society, where he actually created incentives in the family, where if you're a family, you could actually get more money by not having the father in the home.
What?
Guess what you get? You get what you pay.
And I really do feel like the answer to this is not to take away welfare, but to reform it. Why don't we do this, Vivek? And you too, little good boy. What if we had welfare programs, right? We had these welfare programs right here, but you still qualified for them, even if the father was in a home and had income. What if we just did that? How easy would that be? Like, only thing you gotta do. That's all you gotta fucking do. Instead of this, like, hackney propaganda bullshit trying to say that black people are just lazy staying at home on welfare. Like, just make it, again, let me repeat it for you. Because it's really fucking easy. It's really easy. You take your welfare. You have it in your hands like this. You got your welfare. And so, you have a family. You put those two things together. You take the father, you keep him in the house that has welfare, and then allows welfare to still go for the woman while the father works in the home. Like, we could just do that. That sounds pretty good to me. What if we just did that? Instead of this, like I said, this bullshit talking about how black people are just staying home and, wasting tax dollars for not wanting to get jobs and going to go get, Cadillacs off your tax dollars or some shit like that. Why don't we just do that? Like, it's so easy. This reform is like a low fucking hurdle, bro. Anybody can get over this, Vivek. So, why don't you change that R to an I or D, and you could just say, okay, welfare sucks. Keep the welfare, but the family still qualifies for it, even though the father stays in a home and works. And also there's one last detail that a lot of black conservatives will immediately start crying if you say. There are more white people on welfare than black people. I don't know what to fucking tell you, dude. But a lot of poor white people rely on those SNAP benefits, rely on that Social Security disability, that welfare. A lot of white people rely on that unemployment when they lose their jobs or get laid off. So instead of saying that if you have income in the house at all, you don't qualify, we just keep the father in the home, regardless of what race, and we just give them the welfare benefits anyway. Easy. The more you know.
Before. I think it's been really bad for the black community. I think it's really bad for all Americans.
This is
What, do you have
stupid.
anything on this before I move on to
I
Cheyenne?
don't see what one has to do
Me
with the
neither.
other, but go on.
Nothing.
It took up a lot of time.
Nothing,
Oh, it's
Don.
fine. We have-
Nothing, Don. He's wasting your fucking time, bro. Like, these people, like, the thing about being a Republican, bro, is constantly, like, reframing of history and the portrayal of history dishonestly. About things that is not hard to research. Because, it just feeds into the ideal, like I said again, that black people are just staying at home on welfare. When at the end of the day, black people are working, but It just for some reason that it's not quite enough. And instead of addressing the problems on a socioeconomic level, we just sit around and say, "Oh, they're just on welfare," or even reforming the welfare system to better help people get ahead in life. Okay.
I don't really see what one has to do with the other, especially considering and using the Civil War to talk about Black Americans. That war was not fought for Black people to have guns. That's not.
That war was fought for Black people to have freedoms in this country. That's why the Civil War was fought.
Okay.
Which means
that wasn't fought for Black people to have guns. I think.
Actually, you know, the funny fact is, Black people did not get to enjoy the other freedoms until their Second Amendment rights were secured. And I think that.
What the fuck are you saying right now, dude? Like, the Civil War was literally fought. Like, not like, number one, dude. Not even like gonna turn out like this, but Lincoln did not care much for the Negroes back in these time periods. So Lincoln literally said, you know, first and foremost, that this war was not to secure the freedom of Black people; it was to secure the Union. And then he said if he could free all the slaves and keep the Union, he would do it. And then he would say if he didn't have to free any slaves, keep the Union. But, you know, he wound up getting more support for the war and keeping Britain and France from getting involved on behalf of the Confederacy. And so the war became then about ending slavery. That's what the Civil War was fought over. The Civil War was not fought to give Black people guns. Black people during the Civil War were, I guess, to some extent armed in the North, but damn sure were not armed in the South. And after the Civil War, it's like you just said, those same people that they fought, the Democrats that were right-wing at the time, I gotta say it like that every time because I don't want to sound like a dipshit Black conservative hack. But the Democrats during the 1800s up until like 1960, like not even that, but up until like the 60s were right-wing. But even before that, they were starting to shift leftwards with like FDR and shit like that. The Republicans didn't, I guess, go headlong into the Southern strategy until about the 70s or like the 60s and what have you. Point being is that the Civil War was fought to end slavery. Nothing else. The slavery was not fought so Black people can have guns. The Civil War was not fought so Black people could shake your hand. It wasn't fought so Black people can have the same socioeconomic opportunities as white people. It was not fought to alleviate or pay restitution for the suffering of slavery. It was fought purely to end slavery for moral support from other great powers. Not to say that, you know, it didn't have a moral weight to it, and I'm glad that Lincoln made the decision at the end of the day, who was by today's standards a liberal. But at the end of the day, the Civil War, again, it was fought about slavery. Had nothing to do with the Second Amendment. And I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about.
That's one of the lessons that we
still
learned.
aren't allowed to enjoy the freedoms.
I disagree with you on that, Don. I disagree.
Dude, Ronald Reagan literally passed gun reform because the Black Panther Party was carrying guns on the Capitol steps in California. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. Like, oh, Republicans just want Black people to have guns. And then these are the same motherfuckers who will like literally look up like, let's say a Black person gets like, you know, harmed by the police in some way or another, and then they literally look up pictures by some. Well, it is bad that the police did this to him, but look at this picture of this Black person with a gun. Get the fuck out of here.
I think you're doing a disservice to our country by failing to recognize the fact that we have the equality before the law.
And you live in this country, then you could disagree with me, but we're not. You mentioned that.
I disagree.
I mean, you don't have to use it like that, Don. Even though I feel like at the end of the day that was a good job because you to some extent don't know. But this is like there's a reason why I disagree with Don saying this. And shut the fuck up, you punk ass nigga, because they love jerking themselves off when a Black, leftist or liberal says like you don't understand because you Black. Which can to some extent be true, but this is the reason why it's not. It's not that it's not true because it's not true, but it's research and data out there about the suffering that Black people had to experience during slavery, during the Civil War, after the Civil War up to now. This is publicly available information from the Department of Justice, from the FBI, and historical texts and memoirs and books out the motherfucking ass about the things that Black people experienced throughout U.S. history. So there's no reason to be going around talking about the Civil War. It was fought about the Second Amendment for Black people. I guess what I'm saying at the end of the day, it's unreasonable to be this stupid. This dude's about to fucking come. Here we go.
That's why he got fired. That statement right there. Yeah, because I haven't seen this interview, but that particular thing he said, I'm familiar with it. Let me take it back.
I disagree with you on that, Don. I disagree with you. I think you're doing a disservice to our country by failing to recognize the fact that we have the equality before the law.
And you live in this country, then you could disagree with me, but we're not. You mentioned that.
Like I said again, the reason why I disagree with Vivek is not because he's not black. I disagree with him because he's lying about publicly available information that anybody can research and learn about. And most Republican politicians and strategists and and even pundits like this dude right here, even this black guy that I'm supposed to be reacting to, but he's not saying much, knows the truth about the socioeconomic depravity that black people had to face over the past couple centuries past 200 years that America has existed. But they decide not to say that because they could say like I do it right. Like I'd be like, why are black people in the situation that they're in? Because they're the descendants of slaves and they have a bunch of complicated socioeconomic circumstances that led to them losing opportunities and becoming the lower caste of America. Or I could be like so James, why do black people have it hard in America? Oh, it's because of welfare. Like, I would be lying. I will be knowingly lying when I say that. Because like I said again, there is, and it's not, I know this video is getting long, and I know it gets long-winded when I have to repeat myself. The reason why Vivek is wrong is not because he's not black. It's because he's lying about publicly available information that anybody can read and research. And he's deciding to not take in the truth, the information provided by, anybody. The Department of Justice, the FBI, I think I don't think it's called the Department of Finances, but Department of Interior rather, or anybody. Department of Interior can kind of count here, but you know what I'm saying. There's various government departments that do research on this, along with sociology majors, social workers, and people that just simply like studying economy and statistics and socioeconomics. But instead of taking that research seriously, even by nonpartisan sources such as our government agencies, he's deciding to say that the reason why black people had to get through the Civil War was not slavery, but it was the Second Amendment. But it was explicitly written in multiple Confederate constitutions so did Robert E. Lee and the rest of the bastards, even though I'm not going to say that they didn't want to, they wanted to keep guns out of the hands of black people, or was it to keep black people slaves? Slaves couldn't have guns just in general. So like I said, I really don't, it's not only, like I said, this framing is like really dishonest, but it's just, I guess, yeah, it's just dishonest and it's a lie. And again, like I said, the problem is not because Vivek isn't black, but like I said, he's lying about publicly available information.
John, I think we have to be able to talk about these issues.
It sounds very personal. Like, that statement does make it a little too personal.
In the open, regardless of the color of our skin, black Americans today, to say that, compare that to 1865 and 1964, absolutely have equal rights in this country.
That doesn't mean that all problems in the black community are solved, because it's like I said about this guy right here, and I said about the black conservative in the Jubilee video. If most of the socioeconomic problems in the black community were solved, like all the problems, black people had enough food to eat, all black people, by the way, not just like even rich people like Don Lemon, or black conservative hacks who tell racist white people what they want to hear. But black people had enough food to eat, black people had their bills paid, black people had fast lanes to college and higher education, black people went to higher funded schools, black people had more resources to fall back on when it came to their socioeconomic suffering. We would definitely see the spoils of that, and one of the spoils would be there would be no black conservatives at all. The most you would probably have is a few hanger-ons that think that white people, because black conservatism couldn't exist if black people were not suffering. Black conservatism itself, or even the way conservatism is used these days, could not be used the same way that it is now. Because I think it would come to an extent where especially black conservatives would have to do it too. It wouldn't just be about keeping black people down through saying bootstrap politics and people just need to work harder. People would just be saying that white people are better. That's what people would be saying if all the socioeconomic problems in the black community were solved. But they're not saying that. They make excuses for the white supremacist social structure and economic structure that we see today. That would not be your job if black people, had everything that we needed.
I think it's insulting to black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong.
And that's why it's wrong, right there. It's a false retelling of history, which Republicans have a consistent problem with, or anybody aligned with white supremacy has a problem with. All these caveats, retelling of histories, omission of historical events, reframing of history through a context which serves the interests of some sort of bigotry, but it's because it's just not white supremacy. This applies to reinforcing patriarchy. This applies to reinforcing billionaires and whatnot existing and being over workers. When Republicans constantly lie and reframe history to fit their narratives, because it's like, unfortunately for them, history has a liberal or left-leaning bias. So they need to lie about how history happened, who did what, how it happened, what were the views of the people at the time. Everything has to be sent through a filter and lied about. And you might have a half-truth. My wife said something poignant the other day when I was discussing things with her to speak about in the video. It's like all Republicans, even though we were saying this more so about PragerU, they start with the truth, and then the next couple of sentences is a half truth, and then by the end of the conversation, they're just fucking lying. Like, it's insane how this works. Like, and I guess I really don't. She said it the best. Like, I don't have nothing else to even add, to our discussion. She said it perfectly.
Was wrong. What part of this was wrong?
That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for black people.
Go ahead.
Only for black people to get guns, and for black people.
The Civil War was fought to end slavery. There's not enough sitting up like this and hand gesturing that you can do. And no, I'm not making a gay joke. I'm just making fun of his mannerism. Or speaking like you're spitting out of your teeth. Because even a white woman is over here like, oh, I'm not going to even do it. Because she's like, this ain't my place. I'm not going to get involved. This bitch ass nigga. And it's like, I think that especially, white left-leaning people, on these programs and shit like that, even if they're neoliberals like, her, they can accept like a little bit of reframing of history, a line about shit. But saying that the Civil War was fought so black people could have guns is fucking ridiculous. Everywhere you read, everywhere you go, the sentiment echoed by people who fly the flags of the failed Confederacy. You could literally see that, it was either two fights. It was fought to A, keep black people slaves, and B, keep black people socioeconomically behind. This was not fought in general itself to keep black people away from guns. And I would dare say that was a part of it. But that wasn't an explicit reason why the Civil War was fought. It was slavery.
The Civil War was fought for black people in this country to get freedoms. A noble mission.
Freedoms from what, Vivek? What type of persecution could black people have been dealing with at the time that prevented them from having these quote-unquote freedoms? And that's freedoms of any kind. The freedom of self-ownership, and self-reliance and individuality and control over our lives. This war was not just fought emptily because, it was just for freedoms. What freedoms? And it wasn't just the Second Amendment. And there's an argument to be made there that, of course, right-wing, white supremacist Southerners of the Confederacy didn't want black people to be armed. So they passed gun laws to stop black people from being gun owners. And yes, they were Democrats at the time. Southern strategy, stop. But anyway, yeah. What were these freedoms that they had to fight for? Don't just vaguely say that shit.
Even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA, to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for
like, literally, dude, that's literally what you said. You literally just said the Civil War was fought so black people can have the right to buy firearms. and didn't mention nothing about slavery. The big elephant in the room, slavery.
Or the Civil War.
It is a
that's
fact.
reductive.
It's not
and I think
reductive,
it's
Don.
insulting.
It's
There
stupid.
are a whole plethora
insult-
of reasons that for the Civil
with
War.
due
It's a
respect,
it's not even a half truth. This is like a 10% truth. It's a dishonest reframing of the historical event, which was explicitly fought to free black people from slavery, not to them guns. Did you hear Lincoln ever say that we're going to make sure black people have access to the freedom of the Second Amendment? No, he said we were going to have freedom from being slaves, from being human property, not get fucking guns.
I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to black Americans, to say that black people today.
Oh my God, man. It's like I want every Republican to know, like, this empty virtue signaling that y'all do when y'all are like rewriting history and promoting white supremacist ideas. You be like, are you saying black people can't work? Who's racist? We know what the fuck you're doing. Can you stop doing it? I try not to like play the identity card, but I guess in this case it kind of applies because he's doing it. He's trying to be like, see, look, blacks, I get it. Like, no, you don't.
To 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was
what were the other freedoms? It wasn't just the Second Amendment. What were the other freedoms? What freedom that we didn't have that stood in the way of the Second Amendment? Because that shit, black people being gun owners as we even know them today, was a long way away. There was something happening at that time. This little thing called slavery.
Please, I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second. So to say that black people, say what you said again.
Black people.
You mean blacks?
Secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured. That's a fact.
No, that's not how it happened. What did they get? What did they have to get freed from?
Secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened.
You won't mention the S word, Vivek.
After the Civil War, when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to.
And you know how they got it? They got their Second Amendment rights.
No, that's not how it happened. It's not because they got their Second Amendment rights. A very complicated, history of social change cannot be described as they just got their Second Amendment rights. I'm not sure why it even happened, but I guess, if anything, I think one thing that I've heard from people, or if I've read in places, especially left-wing places, is that one of the reasons why the Civil Rights Act got passed is because America, being a racist shithole, not to say the Soviet Union was any better, was constantly used in Chinese and Soviet propaganda against the United States. So the United States wanted to alleviate some illnesses and say that, okay, look, we are not this quote-unquote racist country. We are going to free the blacks and giving them the same socioeconomic opportunities as whites in theory. But ironically enough, after the Civil Rights Act was passed, Republican President Richard Nixon literally immediately started work on undoing the progress that black Americans saw throughout this time period.
Actually, the NRA played a big role in that. But today, down the
NRA did not play a big role in that.
The SRA played a big role in it, if anything. I'm not sure how old the Socialist Rifle Association played in this, but I know groups like them, the Black Panther Party, Redneck Revolt, what's that one that be like actually be going out there? But like the left wing, if anything about gun ownership for like people of color, most people that played a vital role into promoting, gun ownership to black people were left-leaning groups. Not even liberals, but very far left groups were telling black people to arm themselves so we could defend ourselves from the police and white supremacist mobs. It wasn't Republicans getting their ass up there saying like, yeah, y'all better arm up because the fellas are riding tonight or something.
That's a lie. That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role.
This is just
they
historical
didn't.
fact. But
it's not a historical fact.
It's not a historical fact. Let me look this shit up, bro. I'm gonna look this shit up. Let me look it up. I doubt it because maybe the NRA was different back then, but the NRA is full of right-wing libertarians and often outright white supremacists nowadays. So I really doubt people secure gun rights. I'm sure I'm right to some extent about the things that I'm saying. Oh. 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 Um. Hmm. I really don't know. Like, I'm at a loss for words. Let me guess. I need something to drink real quick. Maybe that'll help. Like, I'm not really sure. Like, what do I even say? I think I might just not say anything else, and I'll just leave this over here. And I'll see if good old boy here has any commentary at the end.
As you say, it's historical fact.
The lady's even done.
That I find insulting is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have gone through civil rights revolution in this country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's where you and I have a different point.
It's not about the skin you live in, Don. It's about stuff like this. Like, I don't really know. What is this? APA. I don't really know. I don't really know what to do here, bro, because I know I'm just looking at random websites, but it's been like studied throughout history how the NRA is a right-wing organization, how gun rights originally were only for white people, and it's not because they didn't want black people. I guess they didn't, because they didn't want black people to have guns. Is a right-wing white supremacist phenomenon. It's not a left-wing or liberal thing. I don't understand what's happening here. Like, what are you talking about? Especially considering the fact that right-wing organizations and the Republican Party and the right wing in general only supports gun legislation when it's keeping the guns out of the hands of black people.
That black and white that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate.
I mean, yeah, you should be able to. But in Don, I kind of feel like he did make a mistake, weaponizing his skin color in his context, saying something you don't understand because I'm black. But he should have just said, you don't understand because you're promoting factually incorrect information. That's just a Google search away about how wrong you are. And knowing, and it's like, because I knew already, but it helps to Google it, especially doing a video like this where people could say like something, hey, you're saying the NRA didn't support black gun rights? You don't know anything. And then I just do a quick Google search, and it's just like big ass articles about the NRA trying to keep hands out of organizations like the Black Panther Party and trying to keep guns out of the hands of black people anyway, or how gun ownership is originally promoted to far right white supremacists leaning white Americans to defend themselves from the blacks and from the queers and from the Jews. So I really like, really don't think that it was a good defense, because I understand where Don's coming from, but in debates like this against Republicans, you got to be careful, because especially this, and you see the way that this dude smiled and the way he's acting, black Republicans love when this happens, so they can weaponize their skin color to then defend white supremacy.
I'm not saying you
without me regarding you as a black man, but me regarding you as a fellow citizen.
You're
That's what I
sitting
think
here,
we should say.
whatever ethnicity you are, explaining to me.
Whatever ethnicity.
Don, did I say the N-word? No, I didn't, right? How can I be dishonest and reframing history to fit my narrative if I never said the N-word?
What
it's like to be black.
Whatever
in America.
ethnicity
I'm
I'll tell
sorry.
you what I am. I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white, doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
the content of the
If you're going
ideas.
to do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a fair way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way.
It's
We
really
appreciate
not.
you coming.
You're still being a dishonest hack piece of shit trying to reframe history to fit the ideals of white supremacy. Like, you don't seem as somebody that's correct and objective in what they're saying. You seem like Viveks seems like a desperate piece of shit, desperately trying to latch on to the ideals of hatred.
With due respect, Don, I look forward to continuing that conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That was
What an idiot.
Talk about China.
Yes, let's talk about
Next
China.
time you come back.
Oh, thank you. Much to say on declaring independence from China.
oh, they didn't even get to speak on
Something you can
China.
add.
Move on now, please.
Thank you.
That was a pretty interesting video. I didn't really like how it went though, because I did not learn anything from that video. It was just smoke and heated conversation that even the lady sitting next to them was tired of hearing it. But I think
No, she was cringing out of her fucking skull. That's what the fuck the lady was doing.
Vivek's response was quite reasonable. I mean, if somebody asked you what you think about Fox News and the defamation lawsuits and their settlement, it's a fair answer to say, I don't know so
It
much
was not a fair answer, and it's talking around the issue.
about it. I know as much as you do because I've only heard about
No,
the
you don't know it. You apparently don't know as much as me, because if you knew that Fox News was being sued for defamation and lying, you would acknowledge that they were being sued for defamation and lying. You wouldn't constantly keep trying to reframe history to fit the narrative of white supremacy for your own party.
settlement. I think that's a fair answer. You know, it feels like Don Lemon had specifics he wanted to hear, and Vivek was
He wanted to hear the truth.
not willing to provide that, and he felt like Vivek was being dishonest. I don't know. You know, those are just my views on what I saw. Those are
No,
just
we
my
didn't
views,
feel.
but
I gotta
don't
pause
really
it a lot because he's fighting. We didn't feel like he was being dishonest. He was being dishonest.
like that. Even though that was an interesting interview to see the action and the whole momentum, I didn't really like it because I wanted more. Like I really wanted more.
What an idiot. I guess I could end this video segment just saying the most important thing that you can do to fight against white supremacy in this country is to learn and research your history. You always got to be on the lookout. Your ears got to be looking. You got to be out there listening for dishonest reframings of history, because that's what makes people vulnerable to the ideals of white supremacy. This is why they, for instance, in Florida, want to reframe the history of slavery and the civil rights movement to be just an innocent war about states' rights. Is because when people know the truth about the things that happen in this country, there's no way you can have a right-wing bias or have white supremacist sympathies. This is James, very hot and ready to go outside. You have a wonderful day.